Hello warriors, Bebe here with another story time-ish. And I feel like we should just even be calling this section the intimacy corner because the way my stories and the way my life is like too many stories, like I really can't fixate on one. So I think from now on, this is what we'll be calling it, the intimacy corner with Bebe. Who knows? Maybe you might get one with Toro. So, as usual, I have my sister here guiding me through this topic. And as you can see from the topic, you loud. Oh. This week is loud. So I need some help. Let's get right into it.
Hello warriors, Toro here off camera, asking the questions, getting the tea per usual, pulling out the info for you. So yeah, this is a topic that we'd spoken about on our podcast, but we're gonna just intro it and get into it a little bit here at the intimacy corner. So this whole kneeling down thing, what is even up with that?
Oh my God. I feel like the only way to get to that story is to
Start at the beginning.
Exactly, to bring in the context here. So, where do we begin? 2012, I meet somebody, we start dating, it becomes long distance, it drags out for years. But all along the while, I'd started noticing certain things that, it seems like this person has a terrible temper. It seems that this person is rageful. Like this person can rage out, to the point where people will be holding him back. And, all of that was very scary to me. It made me uncomfortable. But I have to say, just the programming I had received, it seemed like it wasn't quite the red flag that my spirit, my nervous system had been telling me it was, because it seemed like for the most part, the world gives men a pass for their anger. So as much as it made me uncomfortable, and I would constantly talk to him about it and caution him and be like, at least maybe try this method, try that method, like coping with the anger, like, cause I didn't know what to do kind of thing. But it just felt like no matter what, once this person got upset, there was nothing that, like, you just had to be prepared for anything. So, but I would say that in the beginning stages, because the love was still there, it felt like a honeymoon period every time I saw this person, because the relationship was long distance. So there was enough time and space between the raging, the anger, for me to feel comfortable enough to keep proceeding with the relationship. But I would say that once I moved back to Nigeria, once we got married, for the very first time, this is where I felt when you say someone jumps from frying pan into fire, this is when I felt it, honestly. Because now we're living in the same space under one roof, and it felt like there was something this person was just raging out about every single day. Sometimes it's full on, like screaming, shouting, throwing things, just being upset. Sometimes it's when you can tell that something is like, it's like an undercurrent of rage, like you're tense, the atmosphere is tense, you're walking on eggshells. So that's what I felt, and I wasn't used to living that way. For people who knew me prior to meeting this person, I'm a very chill, happy-go-lucky, anything goes. Like my life just flows. In fact, this person always used to say that you're always living in the clouds. Like he was using it as a way to criticize me and be like, your head is always in the clouds, you're always living in the clouds. But really and truly, I'm just such a free spirit. Like nothing is ever really that serious. So for me, coming in contact with someone that took everything so serious to the point of being utterly just toxic in anger, that was difficult for me to process. And the way I processed things was to just like shut down. I will shut down. Like, I'm not used to being
confrontational.
I'm not used to being confrontational. I'm not used to spewing out my emotions onto other people. So that behavior was very difficult for me to acclimatize to. And in the first year of our marriage, I struggled. I do have to say that there were a number of instances that were blaring red flags that made me very, very scared in my interactions with this person. And I feel it's sad for me to say that over the years, I felt my light dimming, me becoming smaller and smaller and smaller, just so that I could keep myself safe from this person and their anger issues. For those of you who know me, and most likely know my ex, you know that this is not something that I'm making up. He's quite known for his anger. He's quite known for flying off the handle, being very aggressive, being violent with people. So, but I guess again, part of the programming, when you think, oh, you grow up thinking you're a good girl that can change someone, that can help someone, that can, you feel like you would be a positive influence on this character. I'm here to tell you guys that is a lie. You can't do it. You can't save someone that doesn't want to save themselves. And you cannot, all you will just end up being is their victim, really, of their chaos that they create, that they bring. The energy is too much, and you can't change someone. Like, this is like, once someone is, at what age does someone's brain close? Is it 21 or 22? It's done. Nobody is changing after that. Like, I'm sorry to say, you might be able to shed some of, like, maybe your indoctrination as your, that you've been panel beated with or whatever, but in terms of core values, the core of who someone is, that can change. And taking up space like that violently against other people, that's not something that changes, really. So certainly, I'll say I fell into that trap thinking, oh, I'll be Beauty married to the Beast that calms him down, because that's one of my favorites, my favorite Disney movies. So that is a trap, y'all. Ain't no changing that beast into a prince. That beast is gonna be a beast for life.
So I want to just pick on something that you said there, which is that the world inherently, there's this inherent permission that is given to men, and the world permits men to display their anger. But I just want to qualify that and say that no, the world gives room and allowance for men's mismanaged anger, because anger is just one emotion in the spectrum of emotions, and it is normal. Your anger is communicating something to you. There is such a thing as righteous anger. You can be angry rightfully. But you said, like, as you said, toxic anger, mismanaged anger, uncontained anger, that
the kind of anger that feels like it's gonna burn everything down.
Yes, bull in a china shop, kind of just
the cutting off your nose to spite your face kind of anger, the one that puts everybody in harm's way, including the person displaying this anger.
Exactly, because you can see that the person is not even there. When you look at their eyes, they're gone, and they give in to that anger and let the anger consume them and everything around them. That is what, like, men get a pass for, that, women cannot even dare to try to display. So I just wanted to qualify that, because there's nothing wrong with anger in it of itself. So I'm just going to prompt you a little bit here, with all this, like, violent outbursts. So I want you to highlight some incidents, that you had just touched on that alerted you, or like that you said really, really scared you, either before, like during your relationship before the marriage, and then once you got into the marriage?
Okay. First of all, I do have to say that too, this is a topic that is loaded. It is loaded. So I did a good job of breaking this down on episode 4 and 5 of the podcast, Authenticity Warrior. So I encourage y'all out there, if you want to get a deeper, more comprehensive understanding of physical abuse, the different forms it can look like, the ways in which I had to deal with that in the life that I was living prior, how I struggled, the abuse that I endured. Certainly episode 4 and 5 of Authenticity Warrior. But on here, I think to answer your question, Toro, I'm just going to point to 3 specific instances that, as much as I quote unquote loved this person at the time, even I could not delude myself about the level of danger that I was in. Unfortunately, I felt stuck, and I was in the place in my life where I was burying my head in the sand. I was fearful of making the decision to end things, and just instead decided to delude myself into thinking maybe things will get better, maybe things will change. And instead, that just drove me further and further into the abuse. The abuse got worse and worse and worse, up until the point where I literally had to jump out of that boiling pot that I was in. The first incident I'll mention is about 6 weeks to our wedding. We're hanging out, we're being playful, and all of a sudden, that playfulness, I didn't even realize when this person was no longer playing. And bottom line, I ended up in a position where this person was barreling over me and choking me. And I felt like, to the point where I remember asking myself this question: am I about to die? And the survival instinct in me, I didn't even know where I got the strength from. It felt like it was superhuman strength, where I shoved this person off me. And I stumbled out of the room that we were in. And I just know that I was disoriented. I was disoriented. When I think about that incident, it was something that I got blamed for by this person, that I made him do that to me. And it's sad that I wrongly believed it. There was nothing that I did that I didn't deserve that. That's just the simple fact. I didn't do anything hurtful. I wasn't mean. I didn't harm this person. And even if I did any of that, no one deserves to literally be choked out like that. It's one of the things that I don't even know. Because this thing happened 6 weeks to our wedding. What I was just, it hurts me to when I think about the fact that what I was thinking about was, what will I tell my parents? All the money that had been spent, all the invitations that had gone out. What will I tell people? I also felt like I had to protect this person. I can't tell, because, when they've already trauma bonded you, they've told you all these woes, me stories about how all sorts of people have done them wrong, this one, that one. I had wrongly listened to all of that and felt, oh, I don't want to be one of the people that has done this person wrong by telling everybody what they did to me. In protecting everybody's interests, I turned myself into a sacrificial lamb, and I didn't want to shake things up. So I married this person, just crossing my fingers and just hoping for the best that hopefully it won't happen again. So you'll get more of the context from the podcast where I explained exactly where my head was at, the reason why I proceeded, and how that changed me ultimately. My decision to continue on, it changed me for the rest of our relationship. And that's something I want you guys to understand, that when something traumatic happens to you, that is a blaring red flag. That is a message from the universe, from God, from whoever you believe in, to step away from a situation, and you don't listen. It is something that changes you down to a cellular level. It changes you. And if you're lucky and you get out and you begin to remember who you are, you see exactly what it took, how you changed, and you would almost cry for yourself. How you turned into a shell of yourself, things like that. I don't want to belabor this point, so I'll just move on to the next incident for me that was extremely hurtful, which is when I was pregnant with my second child, my wonderful sunshine, and I was in my third trimester. Something had happened. I believe the nanny had, my ex had been on this whole, he had, the culture in that house was, oh, I'm a king. You treat me like a king. You talk to me like a king. You serve me like a king. And guys, if you see the squalor we were living in, that is actually what pains me about some of these old girls, I do have to say. I'm sorry to say. They do the barest minimum, if at all, and then they want to reap where they did not sow. They want to be eating the choicest of meats. They want to be taken care of, in fact, they want that patriarchy treatment. They want it, but the patriarchy money, shishi, you won't see it. It blows my mind. In fact, I didn't want to just even, let me not go on too much, but bottom line, it happened that the nanny had brought his food, or whatever the case may be. He had been served in a way that, according to him, he was not served like a king. In fact, I just know that my belly was out to here. I was taking care of my first child, who at the time was about 15 months. So I wasn't even really paying attention to what that interaction was. All I just remember hearing was, my friend, will you get out of here? When I tell you to, blah, 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 how dare you do this to me? Blah, 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 blah. And then I look up, and all I just know is that the girl scampers off. She runs off with the tray of food she was bringing. And I look up, and all of a sudden the guy faces me. And then he starts laying into me. That's why you're so stupid, blah, blah, blah. How many times have I told you to train this girl? Blah, blah, blah. You don't do anything. You're so useless. So he just starts going in on me. Before I even piece together what happened, okay, then the anger, the going off, my son is right there. And I am looking at this guy. I'm just like, are you going to do this to me right now? My belly is out to here and I have my baby. Because especially for those of you that have been pregnant in Nigeria, you know how, they treat pregnant women. People just leave them alone. People don't stress pregnant women. People are always taking care of them, pampering them. And that's something I never got to feel ever. Just full on just the abuse just continued as usual.
Or escalates, actually.
Exactly. But for me, in this instance, I was so upset. By this point, I'm crying. I'm like crying. I'm like, because at a point, I kid you not, guys, I look at my belly. I look at my son. And then I look at him. The tissue that I was using to clean my face, like the strength that I got, I'd never, the way I stood up. And I said, wouldn't you stop? You're such a bully. the energy that I even used to say that to him, like I had never been able to ever, like once somebody is on 10 like that, I usually shut down. But this time, like, I don't know if it was even the pregnancy that just gave me the strength to stand up and be like, is it not enough? Like, what is it kind of thing? I was so upset. I deterred the Kleenex I'd been using. I tossed it in his direction. I walked into our bedroom. But, pregnant women, we have our peculiarities. So in this particular pregnancy, I always had to be drinking water, like sips, 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 and chewing gum at the same time. All through the 9 months, that's what I was doing. So as upset as I was, as I walked away, as afraid as I was, what was this man going to do to me? Oh, now that I said this one, I didn't even let the fear. I was like, oh my God, I forgot my water. I was heading back out to get my water. As I was heading back out, I just heard him lock the door and lock me inside there. The panic that came over me in that, like, oh my God, I don't have my water. I need my water. Like, I can't even explain. I start banging on the door and begging him, open this door. Let me have my water. Please open the door. I do all of that. This guy, to be honest, I don't want to even just be rehashing these things. So I'll just say, to hear the rest of that, go listen to episode 4 and 5 of the podcast. Bottom line is, this guy sequestered me in there, locked me in there. I was weeping, I was crying, I was on the floor, and this guy didn't let me out. I heard him make a phone call, and he was cackling and laughing on the other end of that phone call. At a point, I heard my son come to the door. I heard him fiddling with the keys, like he was trying to open the door for me. That moment is quite. I'm not going to cry, because
You sure you want to get into it?
yeah. That was the worst. That was the worst. When women say they are staying for the children, please guys, don't do that shit. Don't do it. Do that shit.
Do you want to take a break?
Okay, let's continue.
You want water?
Okay, let's continue. Don't stay for the children. What they go through is not worth it. It's not worth it.